ऑलराइट, सो आपके पास क्लाउड सिक्योरिटी के जो प्रिंसिपल्स हैं, देयर लाइक 6 प्रिंसिपल्स। इसके लिए है आपके पास IAMVEN, ठीक है, यानी कि आई स्टैंड्स फॉर आइडेंटिटी एक्सेस मैनेजमेंट। सो बेसिकली मैनेजिंग ऑल ऑफ द एक्सेस, privileges, user identities, authorizations, authentications, for having a secure network, um, is going to be your identity access management. Then you have A, which is what again? So I for A for application security. So I'll get to application security afterwards, and then M for security audit and monitoring, which basically means that you want to monitor and have regular audits of your cloud environment to make sure it is working properly, to have proper risk management solutions, and to make sure that you can identify the security threats and vulnerabilities. Then you have IAMV, virtual management. So virtual machine management basically means um, you want to have your virtual machines, which can be um, which will have which will be enclosed or encapsulated in a cloud environment where you can have your anti malware solutions deployed onto it. You can have security patches, and you can do what you can limit your configurations so that it only has limited exposure to the other environment. Then you have IAMVE. E stands for data encryption, and data encryption basically means you want to encrypt your data both at transmit and at rest. Data at rest basically means that your data is now at the destination. Then we have N, which is network security, and network security means you want to have a network infrastructure in which you have deployed firewalls, security measures, intrusion detections, prevention systems for having a better security on the network. And then application security is basically the same thing for which is basically firewalls, intrusion detections, system preventions for your cloud applications. Okay, so let me just check. Um, Okay, yeah, that was pretty good. Next, we have Gartic. For NIST guidelines, we have Gartic. Gartic stands for G for governance. So governance is basically you're having some sort of like rules and policies and your standards, policies and standards which you have imposed on your development, application development, implementation phase, designing phase, testing phase, using phase, monitoring your deployments, and you're making sure that all of your organizational practices are in coherence with your security principles, your security privacy, and all of those rules. Um, they're coherent on your entire SDLC cycle. Then you have got A for architecture, and architecture basically means you should be aware of the underlying structure on the basis of which the computer service has been built on. So you have entire control over the security and privacy. Then we have R, which is immediate response, and immediate response means that you want to have an immediate action planned or an immediate response planned or immediate measure planned for any incident. And availability over here would mean that in case of disasters, in case of any natural disasters, or in case of any sort of power failures, you want to make sure that you have data recovery, data backups, and you want to execute your critical operations as soon as possible so that your critical services are online immediately, and then trying your way back to making sure that your all of the other rest of the other operations are back online as soon as possible. So the immediate response would be for that natural disaster. Then we have T, which is trust, and trust basically means that you want to give some trust to some of the resources that your your cloud service is using. So this basically means some of the resources must have some visibility to the security and privacy so that they can actually use their resources without asking for permissions, not for without asking for permissions, but mostly without being blocked all the time, right? um, you also want to make sure that you have a proper structure as to whom you're going to give security sorry, you're going to give ownership to, right? This is very important. And you also need to make sure to have efficient solutions for risk management if there is any risk to be taken off. So this is GARTI. I was what? IAM access management. Again, the same thing, managing your, having security protocols and like standards, policies, all of that stuff for managing user identities, authorization, authentication, and all of that stuff. Then you have um, GARTI. C is compliance. Compliance basically means that you have laws and regulations for which you have imposed on your security and privacy, which your organization is basically using for your computer services and their functionalities. So what I mean by that is कि आपके पास जो computer जो computational जो sorry जो आपकी cloud services जो हैं जिसके पास आपके पास उनके पास जो data location privacy एंड अदर सिक्योरिटी जो भी सारी जो भी सिक्योरिटी से रिलेटेड जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन है, ठीक है, इस पर प्रॉपर लॉज एंड रेगुलेशंस होने चाहिए, ठीक है। अगर आपका डिवाइस चोरी हो जाता है तो गवर्नमेंट के पास एक्सेस होता है कि वो सारा उसका डेटा बैकअप कर सकता है, विच इज़ बेसिकली इलेक्ट्रॉनिक डिस्कवरी। एंड यू ऑल्सो नीड टू मेक श्योर दैट दिस डिस्कवरी, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक डिस्कवरी, डजंट एक्सपोज अदर एप्लीकेशंस एंड देयर प्राइवेसी. So if it comes to the wrong hands of the people, they should not be able to like recover the data from other applications. Then we have software isolation. So Gartic, C, and then SAD. Yeah, S stands for software isolation. You want to make sure that your software is isolated as much as you want. So this can be done using virtualization or through logical isolations, which can basically mean that you are having some sort of security inbuilt in these multi-tenant software architecture, and you're also assessing the risk of organization. Then you have availability. I've talked about this. And then data protection. You want to make sure that your data is protected at all times, when it's moving, when it's used, when it's in transit, when it's basically at rest, right? And you want to sanitize your data. Sanitizing of data basically means that you want to delete or wipe the entire data. So if the data is not being used, you want to delete it completely, so it's not available at any point, right? And you also need to make sure that you need to be aware of high level of valued data, which comes with a price of higher threats. And you need to be aware of the problems and the risk involving cryptographic managing cryptographic keys, right? Because अगर बहुत सारी keys आ देंगी, then you would have to manage. Okay, so I'm gonna get into this part afterwards. So let's talk about general stuff. When do the businesses wants to go to whenever businesses wants to go to they want to migrate their entire software to a cloud service, or whenever there's enterprise resource planning, or whenever there are critical apps being created, all of those stuff are then created on the cloud service. So those are the reasons as to why you would want to go to the cloud service. Mostly the cloud, for the cloud users, they're only responsible for the application layer, and for the cloud vendors or providers, they're responsible for the infrastructure, for the firewall, for the security, and they are responsible for yeah, they're also responsible for protecting you against the DDoS attacks from the other users. Okay, and now not all of your resources are virtualized, right? Some of the resources might have bugs, and if you don't have proper virtualization, then there might be a risk of compromising your data to the attackers. Then there's in-advert of data, and advert of data basically means that if you are trying to improve the infrastructure, you're upgrading the infrastructure, which basically means that you're increasing the hard drives. So where does the data is transported? Or is the entire hard drive deleted? And if it is, where's the data going? So all of that comes into the in-advert of data. So this is a basic definition of cloud computing. It is practice of using network of remote servers hosted on internet to store, manage, and process data using shared pool of configurable resources. So you're using remote servers which have which are hosted on the internet to store, manage, process the data, which are using some shared configurations, which would include storages, servers, networks, applications, all of that stuff. Okay, so cloud computing elements, this is very important. So cloud computing elements consist of three things: service models, deployment models, and essential characteristics. So there are, I don't know how many essential characteristics are, but there is like Ben, is it Ben or is it BEM? So B for broad access network, M is for managing services, E is for rapid elasticity. Then there was S for, yeah, BEM-SR. So S stands for what? On-demand service, and R stands for resource pooling. Then you have three service models: software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. And you have four deployments models, which are public, private, virtual, and hybrid. Sorry, public, private, community, and hybrid. Okay, so let's talk about service as a model, platform as a service, and sorry, software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. I'm just looking for my marker. One second. All right, so we have three. We have SaaS, we have PaaS, and we have IaaS. So in software as a service, we are saying that we have cloud providers and we have some cloud services, or you can say applications. So the user can use these services and use these applications on the cloud providers. Your data basically is being managed by the cloud provider, right? सारे data cloud provider यहाँ पे हैंडल कर रहा है, ठीक है. स्टोरेजेस सारी जो भी प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, स्टोरेज कैसे डील करना है, ठीक है, सॉफ्टवेयर अपडेट्स कैसे डील करना है, ओएस के वगैरह, ये सब का सब आपका क्लाउड प्रोवाइडर ही डील कर रहा है, ठीक है. सो आप सिर्फ क्लाउड प्रोवाइडर की जो क्लाउड सर्विसेज हैं उनको आप बेसिकली यूज़ कर रहे हैं. सो दिस वुड मीन जीमेल, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट 365 एंड एट्सेट्रा. प्लेटफॉर्म एज अ सर्विस ये बोलता है कि अब instead of using cloud service and applications, you can run own applications on the cloud providers infrastructure, ठीक है. सो इसके अंदर बेसिकली मीन्स दैट ये आपको पूरा एक environment बना के दे रहा है, जिसके अंदर इसके पास डेवलपमेंट टूल्स हैं, इसके पास आपके पास रन टाइम इन्वायरमेंट्स है, प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेजेस हैं, सब कुछ अवेलेबल है, सो दैट यू कैन डिप्लॉय योर मॉडल और यू कैन डिप्लॉय योर सॉफ्टवेयर और एप्लीकेशन ऑन दिस प्लेटफॉर्म. So this basically means that इसकी एग्जांपल्स होती हैं, आपके पास Azure है, Heroku है, और आपके पास Vercel है, ठीक है. तो बेसिकली ये काम कर रही है. OS आप बेसिकली इसके अंदर एक OS प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं जो जिस पे ये लोग काम कर सकते हैं. IaaS के अंदर हम क्या करते हैं, हम पूरा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का एक्सेस दे रहे होते हैं अपने यूज़र को, यानी कि लाइक ही कैंट modify the structure, right, which means he can't modify or update the structure, but he has total control of everything over here, which means you have control over your OS. You can put any OS you want, right? You have control over your virtual machines, you have control over where how you're going to deploy them, right? So every control over here is being granted to you. So everything, right? OS कौन सा डालना है, VM कौन सा डालना है, कौन से OS पे कौन सी applications चलानी है, all of that stuff. So Azure again and AWS have these are very good examples of IaaS. Okay, so let me just read and see if I missed anything out. Provide service to the users and okay. Yeah, so all of this, since these are on cloud, these are being hosted on the cloud or on the browser. Yeah, so SaaS is like very simplifying the entire complexity and maintenance costs and everything. Okay, I think I've covered everything over there. IS. Wait, why am I shaking? 1 second. Okay, here we go. Yeah, you're also having control over your network access as well. So you can also play with the network over here. You have other resources such as processing, networking, storage, and all of that stuff. Okay, so now let's talk about four different models about public, private, virtual, um, public, private, community and hybrid. So public के अंदर as its name states you can deploy और जो भी आपका application है it is available on the public. जो भी आपने application deploy किए it is on the public, right? So storages again आपके पास available हैं, ठीक है। यहाँ पे again cloud provider सारा का सारा आपका infrastructure और जो भी data है उसको manage कर रहा है. Your part is just to know कि एप्लीकेशन लेवल पे कैसे उसको मेंटेन करना है. देन यू हैव योर प्राइवेट, और प्राइवेट के अंदर हम ये कहते हैं कि हम एक छोटा सा अपना एक डेटा सेंटर रख देते हैं प्रोप्राइटरी, ठीक है, ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का अपना है. एंड ओनली योर एप्लीकेशन कैन नाउ इंटरेक्ट विद दिस डेटा सेंटर. सो टेक्निकली आप अपना आउटसाइड वर्ल्ड से अपना कट ऑफ कर रहे हैं पूरा एक्सेस, एंड यू हैव योर एक्सेस टूवर्ड्स योर एप्लीकेशन विद दिस data center, which basically means that you now have rapid deployments because you're not concerned with the entire internet. You're just concerned within your organization. You have some demands, right? Some services which is like on email service because you're using an organization's own personal emails. So on email service demand, and then your database similarly, your on database service demand, and then similarly you also have one for storage because this is acting as a storage house. Yeah, so one major concern in public is the security, right? Because everybody can access to it and everybody can attack to this. The main advantage is the cost because you can now deploy your application on this and you're getting a lot of storage based on that. For private, yeah, so you're basically doing this using a VPN, a virtual private cloud. Okay, yeah, so you can also do some resource sharing. Now the last two are community and hybrid. So community जो होती है आपके पास, or let's put another one which is called hybrid. So community जो होती है आपके पास उसके अंदर हम ये कह रहे होते हैं कि हमारे पास बहुत सारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं और वो ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस आपस में मिलजुल कर एक एप्लीकेशन को रन कर रहे हैं. सो बेसिकली यहाँ पे रिसोर्स शेयरिंग हो रही है, ठीक है. एंड ज़रूरी नहीं है कि एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, ज़रूरी नहीं है कि सारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस पे करेंगे. मे बी शायद सिर्फ few organizations are paying for the entire service and other members can also use that, ठीक है. So community के अंदर the information is being shared around this community, ठीक है. In hybrid, हम hybrid basically private, public or community ka, like you're either using two of them or you're using three of them. It's mostly suitable for very small businesses where you are not concerned with that much security. It is cost efficient as compared to public, and if you want restricted access you can use private you can use like private cloud. And yeah, you're basically getting all of your resources which is for proprietary based and for your portability, and it enables data and app portability. Okay, so let me see if I missed anything out. Restricted access shared to the independent organizations. Yeah, okay, so let's lastly talk about NIST objectives. So there are three objectives. One is to understand all of the cloud services so that you can understand the entire cloud computing conceptual model. The second is to understand or you have reference to CA, is it cloud computing? So CCS, cloud service commerce, I think, yeah, that it was CSC. So CSC is basically telling you how you're going to sell your cloud service. So again, second part is just telling you technical reference to CSC is to understand and discuss how you would compose your cloud services or you would sell your cloud services. And the third is to have like candidate standards for your cloud computing service, which means that you want to have interoperability, you want to have portability, and you want to have reference implementation. Interoperability basically means that you can use this cloud service on any platform, on any OS, on any programming language as you want. Then you have interaction of cloud. So there are four very key targets. You have your enterprise network, which is your cloud network. You have your data center, which is the cloud provider, because this is providing the resources. The cloud broker acts as a mediator between these. The cloud carrier, you can imagine, is like the entire cloud carrier which is carrying this, and the cloud auditor is responsible for auditing, right? Security auditing and all of that stuff. So let me just explain to you this using this diagram over here. It was here. So your cloud provider is responsible for all of these service layers and your physical hardware infrastructure and all of that. Your cloud service management, right? Portability, interoperability, business support, and provision, security, privacy, all of that stuff is responsible for your cloud provider. So AWS is doing this. Then you have your cloud broker, which is responsible for service intermediation, service aggregation, service arbitrage. I'm not sure what this does, but this is your cloud broker. Your cloud consumer is whoever is consuming it, and then your cloud auditor is for security audit, privacy audit, performance audit, and then you have your cloud carrier, which is acting as a entire carrying all of this.